Welcome to the Still Curtain podcast. I'm Josh Yourish, along with Mark Powell for our first instant reaction show of the 2025 season. And boy, did we get a good one. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 1-0 after a 34-32 win over the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. And Mark, I'll give you the first opportunity to go anywhere. The board is completely open. What is your reaction to everything we just saw? Jalen Ramsey closes it out with multiple pass breakups on the final possession. Chris Boswell hits a 60-yard field goal to give the Steelers the lead after Aaron Rodgers nearly didn't get him into field goal range. So much to digest. We're going to hit everything in this show, but I give it to you first. What comes to mind first after that game?
I mean, for me, it's honestly Rodgers and Ramsey. I mean, it just has to be, doesn't it? It's the new acquisitions. It's I give Aaron a ton of credit. I honestly thought this game would, if the Steelers won, they would probably win 19-16 or something. I think we had predictions sort of like along those lines. And the offense played extremely well. I did not think. Honestly, yeah, just did not see Aaron's sort of, I guess, command of the offense coming, and like Ramsey really coming through there late. That pass breakup, the big, the big hits. I just, I have to, give credit where it's due, because mid game I had some very different opinions. So I feel like it's only fair to just admit that, the new guys came through when it mattered most. A win is a win. There's definitely still concerns, but we'll take it, right? Like week one, anything can happen. There's a lot of weird stuff around the NFL this week, as is the case with every week one. So, trying not to overreact, but to any of the Steelers' obvious faults in this game. But we'll take a win on the road against our former QB, any chance we chance we can, really.
Aaron Rodgers in his Steelers debut, 22 of 30, 244 passing yards and 4 passing touchdowns. The Steelers finished with 271 total yards. The Jets, on the other side, gained 394 total yards. Pittsburgh ran it for just 53 yards in the game. We'll stay on Rodgers because that's the topic everyone wants to talk about. And I have a lot of thoughts, but I will pose a question to you right here. What impressive throw did Rodgers make today?
I thought that he had a few back shoulder throws to Metcalf, if I recall. I thought those were pretty solid.
He had the one to Austin that wasn't bad. Like, that's a good throw. It's not that it's a bad throw. I was not very impressed by anything I saw from Aaron Rodgers. This offense looked exactly how I expected it to look, right? We talked just last week in our final predictions, and we did some bold predictions and whatnot. And I said, Jonnu Smith's going to lead this team in receptions because Rodgers wants to get that thing out of his hands quickly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we saw, right? This looked in a lot of ways like the late Ben offenses, where it's all short, it's all around the line of scrimmage, it's a lot of eye candy. And early in the season against a Jets defense that, let's be frank about the Jets defense. 2 years ago, it was a really talented unit, one of the better units in the NFL. Last year, it was kind of a disaster. And I think everyone's just assuming, that it was a mess with the Jets. Like, their defense is fine. The personnel is not really the same as it was a few years ago. Coverage isn't sticky year to year. They don't have DJ Reed on the other side of Sauce Gardner anymore. Like, this team is not the vaunted Jets defense of a few years ago. And Rodgers 4 touchdowns, they all came off play action rollouts, right? Other than the Jonnu Smith pop pass, which kind of doesn't really. I mean, sure,
I don't think we count that.
That's a touchdown pass. That in the official record books, it brings Rodgers 2 short of Brett Favre now on the all-time touchdown list. And okay, that's fun. I thought he couldn't move in the pocket. I thought he couldn't extend plays. I think he looks old. He looks like he wants to get the ball out of his hands really quickly. And with the Steelers' offensive line problems, which did not go away because I thought Broderick Jones was wretched in this game, I don't think this offense is going to be, I won't say it's going to be terrible. Like, I think it's probably still going to be bottom half of the league. And I think especially if they struggle to run the ball like they did today, no carries for Caleb Johnson. He was nowhere to be found. A lot of the running game was out of the shotgun. It was inside zone stuff. Like, they didn't really do any gaps stuff, which I kind of would like to do. If you're going to run out of the gun, do it more interestingly than just this inside zone stuff. When they try to get to the outside zone, they use like a lot of motion to try to do it. I have real systemic concerns about this offense. Am I overreacting or being overly harsh after what was a pretty impressive 34-point performance?
So I wanted to start with the positive, which was I thought that Aaron played fairly well, given it was his first game at the helm and he played no preseason. So,
I think he played well.
But to your point, the running game was, I mean, what did they finish with? 54 yards?
54 yards.
2.8.
I don't know what
2.8 yards per carry.
Was.
Brutal.
Oh,
brutal.
Good.
Yeah, no, I
Thanks
got
for
you.
having, yeah.
Was not great. Broderick Jones, to your point, was basically a turnstile. Yeah.
JJ Watt was talking about Will McDonald having a breakout year, and maybe he will, right? Like, maybe he'll be a great pass rusher. But we also had preseason 2 years ago when it was like, maybe Greg Rousseau's going to be the best edge rusher in football. And turns out he was just going against Broderick Jones. Like, Broderick Jones does this to guys.
Yeah, no, career day when you're facing Broderick. So definitely concerned about the offense as a whole. I think I was pleasantly surprised by Aaron, but I do think he just needs like a ton of time. And when he plays against that Jets front, and he got sacked 3 or 4 times, I believe, it just wasn't. It wasn't an encouraging day from the offensive line. It wasn't an encouraging day for the run game, run blocking, anything on that front. Really, I just, the reason I give Aaron credit is I feel like he just knew the defense that he was going up against, and when he did have time, I felt like he obviously did enough with it, right? And he moved the offense efficiently enough. But yeah, there's a lot of concerns from this game. Not even to mention the freaking defense. Right? Like we haven't even gone to the defense.
We can get to the defense. And I'm excited to get to the defense. We'll stay on the offense now because I think that's right. Like, it's Aaron Rodgers. I agree with everything you're saying, right? I think we have the same opinion. You just have the glass half full take, and that's not usually my perspective. I'm usually glass half empty on the Steelers, and especially because I feel like I've seen this story before. Right, with late career Ben, you can get only so far by, he's always checking into the right play. He knows where the ball needs to go. Like, all this stuff, yes, that is incredibly valuable, right? Moving protections, everything like that, which I don't think he did an amazing job of today, the protection-wise. Because I don't think Aaron Rodgers kind of, now that he's 41, I think it's just that he's 41. So everyone's like, he's this field general out there, Peyton Manning, moving everyone the chess pieces. Like, there are a lot of NFL quarterbacks that are better at the pre-snap stuff than Rodgers, even at this point in his career. Like, Dak Prescott comes to mind. But even if you take that away and say, like, he's the best at that, I think that can only get you so far. And there are going to be serious limitations on this team if he can't create outside of structure, which anytime he did get outside of structure, he was mostly just throwing the ball away, and he still couldn't get any horsepower on that, right? Like, I talked to you about it last week. Like, his superpower as an NFL quarterback was that off-schedule stuff. Maybe you can get to some of it, like with the boots and stuff like that. I actually come away more impressed with how Arthur Smith was able to meld some of his stuff into the Rodgers passing game, and how he was able to use the 2 tight ends. I thought Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith did really different things like I expected. They both were put in advantageous situations and used really well. I come away more impressed with Arthur Smith than I do with Aaron Rodgers, but Rodgers throws 4 touchdowns. So that's obviously going to be the storyline. What did you think about what you saw from Arthur Smith, who's a guy that we think of, this is a run game guy. I thought the passing game, like, looked pretty interesting and a little
Yeah,
nuanced today,
I just
especially on
think
play action.
he knows who he's dealing with, right? Like much like you said, it's a 41-year-old quarterback
Yeah.
without a lot of mobility at this point in his career. I mean, he's not gonna
Mhm.
I think it was Tom Brady last week said something about how Aaron Rodgers in his prime is like one of the most talented quarterbacks he's ever seen or something. And
Yeah,
but his prime
agree.
was forever ago at this point, right? So I think you and
Yeah.
I might have still been in college at that point. It's like which isn't a good sign for Aaron, but like I do like how Aaron fits into Arthur Smith's offense when it's at its best. The issue that I have, once again,
Mhm.
is their running game, their offensive line just wasn't really there today. So I give Arthur a ton of credit for, doing what he could with what he had, which wasn't much. To your point, and also to
Yeah.
your point about the tight ends, like Johnny led the team in receptions today. He had 5 catches. I mean, your
Felt pretty good
your
about that. It's
prediction's
only
looking
1 week, but
really,
I'm feeling
really
pretty
good
good
right
about that
now. I'm
prediction.
just saying, yeah, no, yeah, he was a big focal point, like and he's
Mhm.
only had a few weeks to prep, so I gave him a ton of credit there. But yeah, definitely very impressed with Arthur Smith. Very, still fairly impressed with Rodgers, given sort of the limitations of the line and the offense. I like to think that if they can
Mhm.
get this running game going at all, which is a major question mark, but if they can get this running
Yeah.
game going at all, if they can include Caleb, if they get Warren, being a little more consistent, 2.8 yards per carry as a whole as a team is putrid. So we obviously need more than
Yeah.
that, but like if they can get that going, yeah, winning by 2 points against the Jets is not what you want week one. I would say, just like overarching
Yeah.
point there, but
Not the most
definitely.
inspiring. I think the Jets came into the year, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I might be wrong, with a 5.5
Yeah,
win
yeah, not
total, something
it's
like
not good.
it's
It's
not
not good.
high.
Yeah, yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah, there's definitely like we talked about, just a ton of question marks. I'm just so used to this with the Steelers, as I'm sure you are, like, these games just happen when they're on the
Mhm.
road, especially early in the season. I just, like, I'll take the win, but I'm not gonna stop questioning them.
No. And a position we haven't talked about, we kinda hit on the running backs. I think this is just classic Tomlin, like,
Yeah,
not going to Caleb Johnson. I don't know that it says anything about Caleb Johnson's future. I mentioned that I was a little concerned when they signed Warren to the extension that we were gonna get a, like, heavy dose of early Gainwell, and a lot of that is, okay, maybe the alarm bells go off somewhat for Caleb Johnson's future and trajectory. I think it's just classic Tomlin not playing the young guys. At wide receiver, though, it's clear
yeah.
Calvin Austin is their preferred wide receiver too. He's not like the number 2 target. I think that's Jonnu, and then I think number 3 is Freiermuth. But if somebody is on the outside, it's not gonna be Roman Wilson. We saw very little of Roman Wilson today. I don't think he got a
No,
target.
yeah.
And it's gonna be a heavy dose of Calvin Austin, specifically to DK Metcalf, because we're kind of whipping around on some of the new guys, and there are a ton of new faces. Like you said, this was a classic Steelers performance. This is a
Yeah.
completely different Steelers team, which maybe points to the guy at the top. But on DK, do you think he was impressive, especially yards after the catch, but like that's not really DK Metcalf's game. Do you think this offense and getting it out of Aaron Rodgers' hands quick is going to work well and like maximize DK as a number 1
I mean,
receiver?
I was impressed with what he did, given I think the limited amount of time that Rodgers had to throw pretty frequently. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
to think. Yeah,
finished with
yeah. So
4 for
like, I
83.
like to think that if Rodgers had more time to throw, maybe they could just yeah, get more complex with his route running. But yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, right. But
Attack
yeah,
downfield a little bit
it
more.
didn't feel like a DK Metcalf game. It's, yeah, like not at all. So
No,
just really
some now
weird.
screens and like quick
Yeah,
drag routes, and He had a
Yeah,
couple drops.
early
That one
and late,
in the
yeah.
4th quarter, the 11-yard gain would have been a drop if it didn't bounce off Jonnu and then he caught it on the ground. Um, I thought it was kind of like he showed why he's so
Mhm.
special when he got the ball in his hands because he's just so big, so tough to tackle, so fast. But I don't think it was a really inspiring first performance
Yeah,
from Metcalf.
I think I just need to see more. I need more consistency, more downfield route running, like you said. Like, like that's like I want to
Mhm.
see I want to see what the Steelers acquired when they got Metcalf. You know what I mean? Like I want more of that. Like
Yeah.
that's part of why they got him, why he should theoretically be a fit in this offense with Rodgers. But like, to kind of our like earlier points, like they were kind of forced to do things that were kind of just you know out of character for the personnel that they had. You know, and I think
Mhm.
because it's so early in the season and they're these players are still learning the offense. I mean, this was Rodgers' first game action, right? Like he didn't play the preseason.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't
he
think
didn't play in the
Metcalf did.
preseason at
Did
all.
Metcalf play
Metcalf,
any downs in the
I
preseason?
don't believe Metcalf did
Yeah.
either.
So
They
like
really didn't play
I like to
any of
think
the
that as
starters in the
time goes
preseason.
by, they'll be able to kind of figure that out. But like, yeah, it didn't strike me as a typical Metcalf game. So like, I didn't come away from this thinking like, oh, he's a Pro Bowler or something, or he's an All Pro talent. Like, I
Mhm.
still have the same questions about him as I had going into the season, which is how are they going to make this work? I was impressed by Calvin Austin. I will say, because I based on
Yeah.
our last episode, the season preview, I thought Roman Wilson was going to make an impact. I was dead wrong, at least for the first
Mhm.
game. So I give Calvin Austin a ton of credit for making his presence felt early on. I feel like it took some of the pressure off of DK and Rodgers too, like having that kind of second
Mhm.
option. With Jonnu as well. He kind of got to spread the ball around and it didn't feel forced.
Yeah, I think with Austin, he had a bit of a late season emergence last year with Russ. And to me, I came into this year believing he can be a plus wide receiver 3 and a just like a maybe barely above the bar wide
Yeah.
receiver 2, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
love him as your wide receiver 2, but I think you're okay with it. I'm feeling better about that opinion coming out of this performance. I thought he was really good. That
Mhm.
contested catch was impressive. If he's gonna give you that, then he can play outside a little bit more. And clearly, he didn't play in the preseason either because he had an injury he was dealing with. So maybe that is something to the Roman Wilson explosion we saw in preseason.
Mhm.
Nobody else was out there. Um, but Rodgers also trusts
Yeah.
Austin late in the game. Like he identified that one-on-one with Brandon Stevens. Calvin Austin had beat him earlier on a go route and drawn a pass interference penalty. And Rodgers said 3rd and 11 in a crucial spot, looking at a 60-yard field goal right now. My best option is this one-on-one with Austin. That's encouraging to me. Again, part of it also says, though, this quarterback really wants to get the ball out of his hands quickly.
Yeah.
And that's a good
Mhm.
decision in that spot, right? In on 3rd and 11, when you are on the absolute back of field goal range, right? Like the cusp of field goal range. If you lose any yardage, you have to punt or go for it or something. You're down, so you have to go for it. Um, so okay, yeah, getting the ball out of your hands as quickly there is a good call. I'm interested once we get some of the charting data and more things. What his average of the target was, what his time to throw was, that we can dig into that more. And I'll dig into that more on my show tomorrow. So like and subscribe if you're joining us now for the instant reaction podcast. A good chance to jump in on that. I'll have my show on Monday. Tommy and Shane will be on Wednesday as well. Thank you for supporting the show. Also, want to hear from everyone in the chat. What are your thoughts on this week 1 performance? What are your thoughts on Rodgers? What are your thoughts on the defense? Because that's where we're going to be pivoting to now. We may circle back around to the offense. We want to take questions and just bounce things around here. But I think we can't go any farther without talking about the um, the defensive performance, because you allowed nearly 400 yards to a quarterback that you moved on from, that you benched, that you didn't believe could be the guy. I don't know that this says he definitely can be the guy, right? Like, I'm not going that far with Justin Fields. But I am going so far to say on Fields, you can kind of lead off on the Steelers defense. I have a lot of thoughts there as well. But on Fields, this is what you get when you use a quarterback's mobility to their advantage, right? Even the first run of the game, which the Steelers or the Jets circled back around to this for Justin Fields' touchdown on the naked boot. The first run of the game, handed off to Breece Hall, and Fields immediately boots off of it. And they left TJ Watt unblocked on that right side. TJ is so good when he's unblocked, just closing down that line of scrimmage so quickly, and he tackles so many ball carriers. And you go, why would you not block TJ Watt, right? That happens like 3 times a game because he's one of the best run defending edges in football. The Jets go, we have one of the best running quarterbacks in football, regardless what you think of him as a passer. If we boot him off this, whether he has the ball or not, TJ's got to hold. He's going to be in conflict. And then we're playing 10-on-10 football the other way, right? We've taken a body out, and now you have to play it the other way, 10-on-10 instead of 11-on-10. And that's just the math problem that a guy like Fields presents that the Steelers never used to their advantage, except in the red zone every once in a while last year. And then they made Fields just this pocket passer, which he looked pretty good from the pocket today. He made, in my opinion, he was more impressive than Rodgers. I thought he made more impressive downfield throws. He was more impressive as a creator, obviously. If you don't use that to your advantage, then you're putting him in a situation where he's doing the thing he's worst at the most, right? Jalen Hurts is this important topic of discussion in football for some reason, because people can't decide if he's a good quarterback after he won the Super Bowl. And because he's not a great drop back passer, right? He's not the first person you'd pick in a 2-minute drill to win the game. But you're rarely in that situation because you run the ball so well when you have this guy. You're always ahead of the sticks. He never has to make those third and must pass situations. He's rarely ever in them. That's my frustration about how the Steelers misused Fields last year. I thought he should have started all season. I thought it was pointless to go to Wilson. I felt like I was proven wrong when Wilson looked good early in the season, or early when he came in. I feel vindicated. I felt vindicated when it crumbled down the stretch. I feel even more vindicated now. I think you can construct a viable offense around Justin Fields, and it helps if you go against a run defense that cannot get any push in the trenches. What did you see? Take that anywhere if you want to talk about Fields, but I'll give you first crack on the Steelers.
Yeah, just to kind of go off of what you said on Fields, he was the most impressive player in this game for me, frankly.
Him or Will McDonald.
Yeah, but no, honestly, I feel like all preseason, I was hearing, things out of Jets practice about how he was struggling to, hit some wide receiver near the sideline, or like he had a bad practice or something. And I was really impressed with both him and Aaron Glenn, frankly. Like, I like what, this isn't a Jets pod, so I don't want to make it a Jets pod, but I was impressed with first off, Glenn's leadership, his obvious belief in his quarterback, the Jets consistently coming to Fields' defense after a couple, I wouldn't call them late hits, but just just little shoves and stuff, like
just those
sort of like
penalties
that they could
where you
afford to
have
take,
to kind of have your quarterback.
especially the one late in the first half, that's fine. So I liked what Fields did for the most part. I also was with you right there on the Fields bandwagon last year. We didn't really talk about it at that time, but I was, I don't know. I just Fields had more potential than Wilson at that point. I would have liked to know what Fields could have done in that offense if they fully bought into him. And it's nice to see a team fully buy into him, even if it fails, which it might. Maybe it'll stink this year.
It still might fail. I'm not sold on he's going to be the guy. But
it's nice to see someone kind of try it, and I think we saw today with a team like the Steelers that I don't know, just really sort of like you said, failed to get that push in the trenches, both on offense and defense. But since we're talking about the defense, I was very, I was discouraged on multiple fronts. I was discouraged by how they're going to, face up against mobile quarterbacks too. Like, if you think Justin Fields is the only quarterback with mobility that you're going to play, I have bad news for Steelers fans. First off, there's obviously like a Lamar, but like even guys like Burrow, like they can get out of the pocket when they need to. And I just like I didn't see it from the defensive line today. I thought maybe after Hayward got his extra money, like he'd come out with a little bit extra, oomph. But where was that? TJ made some okay plays today. Obviously he had the sack, he had the sack. Highsmith had a sack. I was intrigued by that, but honestly, just overall, I think part of it's a new defense learning how to play together, but at the same time, when you're the highest paid defense in football, you have high expectations, and you don't really you don't get to have people like me making excuses for you, or you should be
there
able to come
shouldn't be
out
any
and hold a
excuses.
team like
There
the
shouldn't be a
Jets
400-yard
to
game.
probably under 20 points. Like last year and the year before, and I feel like for forever now, the issue has been the Steelers offense can't keep up with their defense, right? The Steelers offense can't score over 20, 25 points a game, and the defense has to win them games. Well, the Steelers offense put up 34 points. Where was the defense?
The collapse last year wasn't just Wilson hitting his limitations and the deep ball variants kind of disappearing, right? Veering the other way.
Yeah.
It was also the defense fell apart. And that's a reason they drafted Derek Harmon along the defensive line in the first round. And Harmon obviously wasn't out there, right? He's injured, didn't get a helmet, not going to be back for a couple of weeks. So that's a factor. But if a rookie first rounder is the difference between allowing 394 yards to the Jets and not, then you're in a pretty bad spot already as, once again, the highest paid defense in the NFL. The Jets ran for 4.7 yards, 39 carries, 182 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. That's what you expect from a Justin Fields offense, but also Isaiah Loudermilk does not belong on an NFL football field. He was getting blown off the ball all day. There's no depth on that defensive line behind Cam. Keanu Benton is still not a nose tackle. He's never been a nose tackle. He continues to not be a nose tackle. And a lot of that running success that the Jets had came with the Steelers in base. They played a ton of base today. They played a ton, Benton at the nose, a ton with Y.A. Black, Cam Hayward, and they rotated in. Sometimes it was Loudermilk and different guys, and then Highsmith and Watt on the edges, some Jack Sawyer mixed in. If you're going to put that many big bodies on the field, and then you have a thumper like Patrick Queen behind them, you better be able to stop the run. And I talked about the math problem that Justin Fields creates. Okay, but that doesn't matter if your defensive ends and defensive tackles are getting pushed back 3 yards against an offensive line that just lost Elijah Vera Tucker for the year heading into this game and had to move Josh Myers to center and Joe Tippmann to guard. I thought it was a terrible performance in terms of their physicality, their push. I thought in the secondary, they looked old, which I said was going to be a concern until the end when Ramsey came alive, right? I thought Slay concerned me a lot. The Jets did a really smart thing. I blanking on their offensive coordinator's last name. His first name's Tanner. He comes from Detroit with Aaron Glenn, right? You think Ben Johnson, it's a lot of the condensed sets and they run a lot of, zone and gap scheme. They change it up. This offense is going to look different because they have a very different type of quarterback, but you saw a ton of those condensed sets. And what does that do? It makes defensive backs have to tackle. And I don't think the Steelers did a very good job on the edges making those plays. The linebacker play was, I'm just rattling through all these thoughts.
Let's go level by level because it's bad across the board. So I don't think you have to worry about it.
The linebacker play, Peyton Wilson didn't really show up much. Like he got involved a little bit when they started scraping on the zone read and, making the end take the running back and having the linebacker come down and be responsible for the quarterback, which I thought was a good decision. dare them to beat you and
Yeah.
throw over top of your head. It kind of neutralized that zone running game, and Wilson was partially responsible for that. Patrick Queen, I didn't think there was a lot of effort chasing the ball down the field. I don't think he was in the right position very often in pass protection or in pass coverage and zone coverage. There were a lot of holes. You don't think of Justin Fields as somebody who's going to sit back there and pick apart your zone, but he did that really well today because I just don't think Queen's a very good coverage linebacker, and he had to be in coverage a lot. And if that's your number one linebacker that you paid a lot of money for in free agency,
Yeah.
I think you're in a pretty bad spot. Like I don't think I think he's an average linebacker who looked pretty good when he was next to Roquan Smith.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't, right? And then TJ Watt. He didn't end up with a sack. He rocked Justin Fields the one time, but Fields had given the ball up. I don't think he got necessarily a ton of pressure every once in a while. And it's, Fields is going to flush out of the pocket. He's a super mobile quarterback. Sometimes you're rushing to contain more than you're rushing to actually get sacks or anything. I don't think Watt is like a problem coming out of this game. I would not say that at all. He made a lot of nice plays in the run game. I think he ended with 5 tackles. But the utilization of Watt, it's the same thing. We've heard all offseason that they're going to finally start moving this guy around, right, and doing some different stuff. And they have this veteran secondary now, so they can bring some different blitzes. And Deshaun Elliott's injury doesn't help, and now Joey Porter Jr.'s injury doesn't help. And you're already thin on the back end, but it's just Watt on the right side, and it allows a team like the Jets or any team to game plan around that and be so game plan specific. So many of their runs went to the left side because they said, we're staying away from TJ Watt. We're going to put him in conflict with zone reads, with boot actions, and just stop him, freeze his feet. And they did such a good job doing that because they know where he's going to be. And they were able to chip him all day. It's the same story as last year. And you're limiting one of the 3 best pass rushers in the sport by not moving him around. All you have to do is flip him to the other side of the formation 10 times a game, 8 times a game, right? Like I would like them to have him mugging over the center. Like they did that on the 2-point conversion, which, okay, fine, whatever. Like they stuffed a run. But get diverse in your pressure looks. Terrell Austin cranked up the heat a little bit on the last possession, which I thought was a great decision because Justin Fields and must pass. Dare them with Garrett Wilson and basically no one else at receiver to beat you, right? Arian Smith is their number 3 receiver. He was not a good receiver at Georgia last year. Like he's fast, he can't catch. So I think it was a good game plan at the end. They won this game.
We'll take it.
And I feel I'm already riled up about this stuff. But it's the same problems that they've had for 3, 4, 5 years. And I don't think any amount of Wyatt Black growth, because he wasn't particularly noticeable today, or Derek Harmon coming back is going to change.
Yeah. I mean, there's a big difference between playing the Ravens in the playoffs and the Jets in week 1, right?
And the Jets are kind of Ravens light a little bit now because they have Fields and a running court, right? Like it's going to be somewhat similar to what you're going to get. And if you're getting blown off the ball, it doesn't matter. Like it's a done deal anyway.
I guess my question to you, and I think I know how you feel on this one, but I'll let you kind of address everyone here. Like at what point do we have the highest price defense in the league? We theoretically should have most of our players in the right position. They should be in a place to succeed. When do we put this on coaching? Should it have already? In my opinion, it should already have been on coaching. I was surprised that Austin wasn't let go, just as one example. I don't like calling for people's jobs too often, but we just went through a whole offseason and I expected some changes. So
I like to generally on this show deal in like the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation is the Steelers fetishize stability over success. And they love the fact that they've had 3 coaches since 1969 or 70 or whatever. And they're going to let Mike Tomlin be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers as long as he wants to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And he's 53 years old. He's the same age as Aaron Glenn on the other side, who is a first-time head coach. and 20 years younger than Pete Carroll, who coached today as the oldest head coach in NFL history. Like, I just think it's incredibly stale. I know that they don't spend on the rest of the coaching staff as an organization. They don't hire up and coming young play callers or defensive coordinators or defensive coaches. Every once in a while, they'll bring back a retread, an Arthur Smith, a Brian Flores. They're not innovative. They never really have been since, Dick LeBeau left. And I hate being Tomlin needed those guys and whatever, and like Tomlin won with cowards play. I'm not that at all. I thought Tomlin was a really good coach for a really long time. I think it gets stale in places. And I think when you're not developing young coaches and you don't have other strong voices in the building, it allows you to get really stuck in your ways and really rigid and play a lot of just cover 3 on the back end and rush 4 up front. And, you're just not interesting, right? And so much of modern NFL defense is being unique, being tough to game plan for, surprising offenses, right? The Cardinals last year, I read a preview about the Cardinals today. That's from Read Optional, Ollie Conley, one of the best NFL writers around. His Substack's incredible. Just talking about how they had no talent on the front and they didn't generate much pressure. They weren't a very good defense last year, but Jonathan Gannon was doing so much exotic, crazy stuff, right? Like just bringing heat and still playing shell coverages on the back. And like, he's just brought a whole different way, like Brian Flores too, one of the best, probably the best defensive coordinator going right now. These are guys that are innovative. They're different. And the Cardinals were the only defense last year that had opposing offenses had a lower EPA per drop back each quarter of the game, right? Like that's a big deal because you're doing different things. You're becoming harder to figure out as the game goes on. The Steelers, if you figure them out early, you got them because they're going to be in the same stuff. And if you don't, just figure it out at halftime and you'll be fine. Like it's been a coaching problem for me for a while. I think there are systemic issues with the way they built this roster and just an overly rigid belief that they can win with defense. Cause I just don't think you can in the modern NFL. You can, if you have a great quarterback and you supplement it. But there are a lot of problems that I've been frustrated about for years. And they pretty much like not overhauled this roster, but revamped the hell out of it. And that performance looked exactly the same as last year and exactly the same as the year before. Sans the quarterback, right? And I'm not particularly high on him. So I'm not feeling good about the season right now. And somehow they'll scrape their way to 9 wins.
I don't like how predictable the Steelers are, how I feel like, I feel like when I go through their schedule, I can, tic-tac-toe it. Like, it's pretty obvious, and that does fall on coaching. Like if they're predictable to us, just people who are on a podcast talking about the team, how predictable are they to like opposing offenses, or coaching staffs? Yeah, so like
have to be incredibly.
It's frustrating to me, like. And like I don't want to pile on the Jets here, but like Aaron Glenn, it's a new coaching staff, and I think they could be great. I actually like the Jets OC. I looked up his name because I do want to give him credit here. Tanner Ingstrand. He was the passing game coordinator, right, for the Lions. Yeah.
I got Tanner.
Honestly, I didn't get the first name, so like we're halfway there. I recall Jared Goff praising him at some point last year. He's really good at what he does. I think the Jets could have a really good coaching staff on their hands, but it's their first game. It's their first regular season game, and like they made they made Terrell Austin, Mike Tomlin, two defensively oriented coaches, look like it was their first game. And that to me concerns me when they've been around for
I thought the Steelers were
half a decade. Like, Tomlin longer than that, but Austin's been around forever. It's just, it's discouraging to me for sure. Like, and like because the Steelers are a team predicated on their defense, as we've talked about, it doesn't make any sense that they're a team trying to win the Super Bowl with defense. I would agree with you. you know, that is incredibly discouraging because they're going to have to go, you know, whatever it is, 10-7, 9-8, and then win in the postseason with defense. And like if the Jets are scoring 32 points on you, that's you know, and like that's your norm. Yeah, that's rough.
And you're probably not going to get a home playoff
Yeah, I
game
mean,
if you get into the playoffs at all.
we're talking playoffs
And
in week
then,
one.
oh, let's go to Buffalo. Let's go to Baltimore. And we're getting way over our skis.
Yeah.
But I think it's relevant. Like, I think it's important to talk about what this means in the context of the rest of the year. Maybe we can rein it in now. And I didn't prep you for this, and this is an instant reaction. Who are some players either side of the ball? We've hit on some of them that stood out to you in a positive way. We can circle back around to more conversation about players that we've talked about before. So not somebody off the board that we haven't brought up, but just who are some guys or one guy that jumped out to you in a positive way of like, okay, this is something good. And maybe not to lead the witness here, maybe Jalen Ramsey is that guy because we haven't really.
Yeah. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised by Ramsey's endurance. I think like late in the game, like making those plays, I did not see that coming. I mean, you know, I you know, he's not ancient, but you know, it's like, yeah, but he just he has a lot of downs. You know, like you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's played a lot.
I thought his versatility was really important because he started in the slot when they went to nickel, right, with Slay and Porter Jr. on the outside, and was, you know, there was a thought of potentially he could play safety when Elliott went out. I don't believe he did, right? Like it's hard on the game copy to the broadcast copy to know like exactly the machinations on the back end. But then he went back to outside corner. Brandon Eccles came in the slot. And he made the two biggest plays of the game defensively with like big hits flying around. He showed his coverage ability. He showed his physicality. I thought it was a really impressive
I honestly thought, you know, he was, like I said, like I feel like the new guys kind of came through when they needed to. I was, you know, for it was tough to expect much, but like when Elliott went out for the game, I mean, I give Chuck Clark some credit for stepping in there. I mean, you know, he had a tackle for loss. You know, he made plays when he had to. I'm sure he made mistakes along the way because he's a backup, but like, you know, that's
he was barking the whole game. He was one of the most feisty guys. And I did not expect that from him.
Like when I saw Elliott go out, I was like, oh man, our secondary is toast. And you know, it wasn't perfect after Elliott went out, but like it could have been a lot worse. And I thought safety depth was something to be concerned about going into the year. So I'm hopeful that maybe he can build off that a little bit. And on offense, I mean, you know, I already said Austin and Rodgers, but you know, Rodgers is more of a system play. I feel like, you know, I sort of to your point, like I was really encouraged by Arthur Smith's play calling. I feel like, you know, given the limited pressure or sorry, the amount of pressure he faced and kind of the offensive line just getting beat off the line of scrimmage pretty much, you know, every series at some point, Rodgers played pretty well. But yeah, you know, Austin not getting a lot of time in camp, not getting a lot of time in preseason games. You know, I think that was more than I expected from him, you know?
With circling to the defense again, with Elliott's injury, we don't know the extent of it. That's something I was kind of, you know, looking around to see if we had any information. He was obviously out for the game. With what looked like a knee, he looked pretty frustrated when it happened. If he misses extended time, how much does that concern you about a defense that we've already spent 30 minutes of this pod talking about its issues? How much does that concern you about the back end? And what do you think is it just plug and play Chuck Clark with Juan Thornhill and you cross your fingers?
It might have to be, you know, like you can move guys around. Like, you know, we've talked about how like, you know, Ramsey can play some downs at safety, Darius Slay, you know, we've talked about that ad nauseum. So I think it just has to be kind of like, sort of by committee, honestly. I hope Elliott's
Mhm.
not out for long because he's one of my favorite players on this
No.
defense. But yeah,
Mhm.
I think it just depends on like the situation, right? Like whether it's like a down where you expect like an obvious running situation or passing situation. But I would hope that with the amount they spent on this defense, they could find a way to plug and play for at least a couple of games. If it's an extended period of time, I'm really concerned. I mean, especially based off of like what we saw today.
Yeah.
Like, how could I not be concerned?
Exactly. I think he's
Yeah,
sneaky one of the most important players on the defense, especially
yeah.
once you trade Minka Fitzpatrick away. I think that was true last season with Minka. Um, yeah, and like you said, maybe they move Ramsey around. I think
Mhm.
Ramsey looked plenty physical, right, to play safety. That hit on Wilson was fantastic, and I not to go back to Ramsey so much, but he did really impress me. And even the penalty he had when he was trying to bring down Fields and evade that block, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of a ticky-tack call that Gene Steratore on the broadcast didn't really agree with. Like, I don't ding him for that at all. I actually think it was an impressive effort to even get a hand on Fields and kind of slow him up so he could get forced out of bounds and not score a touchdown. Um, I thought that was going to be a good addition in the offseason. We talked about that trade being, Mink out, Ramsey in, and then the Jonnu piece on top of it. Um, I was I was really impressed with how he played. In the chat, if you have any players that impressed you, didn't impress you, any players you have questions about, anything, we have a take on the Steelers from Echelon Motion Pictures in the chat. Defense doo-doo, offense really good, special teams, thank you. Yeah, special teams, thank you, not just on the Boswell field goal, but on the recovery, the kick recovery, fumble recovery that set the Steelers offense up. Like that's
Yeah.
part of how you get to winning a football game when you gain 270 yards and the opponent gains 394. It's field position stuff, and that's Mike Tomlin football right there. That's the good side of it. The bad side of it is something that I don't love quite as much. But the special teams promising, especially when you elevate a guy like James Pierre from the practice squad. I think he had a helmet today. I didn't really see him much. But you keep Carson Bruner on this team, right? Like Miles Killebrew has been an important piece for a while. Um, there are a lot of pieces, those core special teamers that the Steelers value quite a bit. That phase of the football, I don't know that we need to do a full takeaway section on it, but that phase of the football was pretty
Yeah,
impressive
yeah.
to
I
me.
mean, anytime you can get a turnover on special teams, I mean, that should be just a win for the week,
Yeah.
frankly. But even like,
Mhm.
obviously we've got, Boz is Boz. When he made a 60-yarder, I was like,
He's the best kicker in
when he lined up, I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
like
in. Like, I don't have to watch this.
yeah, I didn't have much worry
Yeah,
about it, right? Like a lot of people, I that's a big thing, like a big Bill Simmons thing is like the ball's kicked out in basketball, kicked out to the corner, and somebody has a wide open corner three. Do you think it's going to go in? Like that gut feeling
yeah.
about like what you think about that player.
Oh, yeah,
Any kick from any distance with
yeah,
Boz, I'm like he's got it. Like I Brandon Aubrey, I think the Dallas kicker is like the hotness lately after Justin Tucker kind of faded into
yeah,
a
yeah,
bunch of things
yeah,
that I
fair.
don't want to talk about at a minute 50 of this instant reaction podcast. Um, so Brandon Aubrey is like, oh, he's got the big leg and whatever. Boz has been a two-time Pro Bowler. Is he
He's all
not the best
reliable,
kicker in
man.
football?
I'll take Boz from 60 over
Yeah.
most kickers from 45. That's a solid, yeah. Seriously,
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
feel
I
more
I, I
comfortable there.
agree.
Like, it was kind of misty in Jersey today. Like I had a friend at the game, and
Yeah.
I was texting him. I was like, like what's the weather? He's like, it's kind of windy, a little misty, might rain. And then Boz lining up for 60. I'm
Mhm.
like, it's cash. It's done. Like, I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
that. And honestly, like even the punter Corliss Waitman. Sorry, I'm a little unfamiliar with our
Yeah.
punting game, but yeah, Waitman, yeah, his new punter
Waitman.
this year,
Yeah.
yeah, 47 and a half average. I know he wasn't asked to do a ton, but like it's not horrible. I'll take it.
Yeah. He didn't hit a great
Yeah,
one. late. But he got a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
bounce on it, so it didn't hurt. The coverage unit was good. Like the special teams, we don't have to spend much more time on it, but I just thought worth mentioning. And I wanted to talk about Boswell because, in my opinion, he's been the best kicker in football for a couple of years, even in the midst of the Justin
Mhm.
Tucker when things were good. So it's awesome to have a weapon like that, especially when you have an offense that I think is going to sputter
Well,
as the season
we
goes on.
I hate to bring it up again, but we did our game predictions last week, and each of us was like, this will be 16-13,
Mhm.
19-16, or like something of the sort. And that's because we're so used to Boswell just
Yeah.
being like, I feel like every week when I do my like Steelers, my like Steelers power rankings for the game,
Yeah.
Boswell's somewhere in the top five because he probably hit 3 field goals. And two of them were probably from beyond
Yeah.
50 because the offense sputtered when they shouldn't have. But that's what's awesome about
Yeah.
having someone like that, and like that's why you pay the man. That's why he's,
Mhm.
in my opinion, now I'd say best kicker in football, and I'm a little biased, but like in terms of consistency,
Yeah.
he's got to be there, right? Like,
And to that point, it kind of spurred something in my mind, and maybe to bring this full circle as we start to wrap up here. You didn't see the offense stalling out in the
yeah,
red zone,
yeah,
right? You didn't see Boswell being relied upon to cash in a lot of those drives because of Rodgers, because of Arthur Smith, because of all the things we talked about. I won't say I was overly negative at the beginning. I'm predisposed
hmm
to
hmm
frustration with this franchise. I think there are a lot of problems. I think Rodgers is going to have a lot of limitations. I also think they have massively upgraded at quarterback in a lot of different ways and have the best quarterback play that they've had since probably before Ben hurt his elbow in 19. And that is something to feel good about heading out of a week one win, a shootout win that was just the defense was kind of a disaster. That's going to be my takeaway. The thing I'm holding on to is okay, Derek Harmon's going to come back at some point. Hopefully that's a boost. This defense is too
yeah.
talented to be wretched. That's a weird offense to go up against in week one, especially you don't know what it's going to look like with a new coordinator and a lot of new pieces. I can hold out some hope there and know that the offense is in a better spot than it's been in a long time. What's going to be your kind of takeaway, maybe your thing you're holding on to heading into week 2 as the Steelers prepare to host Seattle at
Well,
Acrisure Stadium next Sunday?
to both of your points, yeah, definitely Rodgers. I was writing a story earlier today about how the Steelers just aren't used to good
Mhm.
quarterback play. Like they just haven't had good quarterback play in a
Yeah.
while. So like when Steelers fans see Rodgers throw for, like off his back foot across the middle, like even using the middle of the field, they're like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And it's like, no, like this is just how
Yeah.
most quarterbacks play, especially like, future Hall of Famers like Aaron Rodgers. I understand he has limitations with his, like his movement and his ability to like extend plays. I'm also
Mhm.
concerned about those things, but yeah, he's probably, yeah, he's better than Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields. Well, probably Justin Fields. We'll see here, I guess. Russell
Probably
Wilson.
Justin Fields in the
Yeah,
capacity that
he's
the
better than
Steelers
Russell Wilson.
used
He's
him.
probably he's
Yeah.
probably better than like last year Ben. I just like, yeah. So like I have some
Yeah.
confidence there. I do think this defense will hopefully get a wake up call from this game. I just can't see how with the talent on the roster, they can be this bad. Over the course of multiple weeks. I'm crossing my fingers there. If I'm wrong, bring the pitchforks to
Yeah.
my house. That's on me. So
Yeah.
hopeful there, like you said. Also hopeful in the schedule. The first half of the schedule,
Mhm.
Seattle's not super easy, but we've got like New England, Cleveland. We've got some games here where I feel like, and like home games against Minnesota, home games against Green Bay, tough opponents, but like I do feel like having the right opponents at home. I like how this schedule
Mhm.
lines up early on. And I think we can get off to a decent start here. I was just really worried that we are going to blow this one, honestly. Like halfway through the game, I was
Yeah.
like, "This is a game we can't afford to lose." Based off of what the fact that I've looked ahead in my mind at least. And
Mhm.
yeah, yes. Like I have
Yeah.
some hope based on the schedule that like they can at least get off to an okay start here. Which frankly they need, because if things start going downhill with Rodgers, you just don't know. Duke could jump on McAfee and start talking smack. Anything can happen with this man.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Maybe my last point. Maybe this was the Tomlin's team plays down to its competition game. Those games happen on the road. They usually don't happen in week 1. Like, usually you're ready to play in week 1. But maybe the defense just kind of wasn't ready. There was the turmoil with Cam Hayward, who got $3 million more in incentives before this game. That deal was done last night. So now he's happy. He's playing. There were some injuries on the defense and just like a lot of new pieces. Maybe this was the one that would have been the letdown, and it didn't happen because your offense is improved. Like, maybe there is something to that, and the Steelers can get off to a good start, like you said, and start ripping off of a couple. Do you have any last thoughts, or are we ready to wrap it up?
I'm happy Cam got paid. It's funny. It's funny that
Yeah.
his contract has incentives based on postseason success. That's all I'll say. Cam Hayward's held to a higher standard than Mike Tomlin, apparently. The standard is the standard. That's all I got. That's all I got.
I
That's
think
all I
that's a
got.
great place to leave it. I'll be with you on Monday, so make sure you like and subscribe to the Still Curtain podcast. Come back at 1:30 Eastern time tomorrow for my show. Come back at 1:30 Eastern time on Wednesday for Tommy Jagai and Shane Kubis. And as always, I'll talk to you tomorrow now, and go Steelers.